Republican Congressman Adam Kinzinger of Illinois. He is on the Foreign Affairs and the Energy and Commerce Committees. Congressman, thanks for taking the time during these holidays.
Yep.
So first question.
Yeah, good beer.
You heard the Turkish foreign minister's comments there. President Trump turning a blind eye to Khashoggi's murder. Fair statement?
No, I don't think so. I said from the very beginning, I wish the president would have done a far different statement. I agree with the outcome, but not the words, not the statement. I mean, ultimately, yes, there was a killed journalist. That's very bad. That needs to be called out, and it should have been a page and a half of the statement saying how terrible that is. But that is not enough. That's not an impetus to totally realign our objectives and our foreign policy in the Middle East in a bad area. He did miss the opportunity to use our force of words for good, and that's where I think we missed that. Now, for the Turkish prime minister to say, for the Turkish foreign minister to say, we're turning a blind eye to these abuses is rich coming from Turkey because they have a lot of journalists imprisoned every day, and they're pretty good at human rights violating themselves.
Fair point, but let me ask you this. Isn't it a false choice between holding Saudi Arabia accountable for this murder and the leader, which the CIA believes ordered this murder, and abandoning the relationship? The U.S. has long alliances, difficult moments with a whole host of allies. They've held them to account for things without completely abandoning the relationship. It strikes me that's a false choice.
Yeah, I don't think it has to be one or the other. Either you abandon, but when you look at it, and we look at what really happened here, again, the egregious nature of it, the fact that it was on Turkish territory, even though in Saudi territory, technically in Turkey, the fact of the brutality of it is what's getting all this attention. But keep in mind, Moscow, for instance, Vladimir Putin kills opposition leaders, kills journalists, killed 2 citizens with weapons of mass destruction in the United Kingdom, and empowers Bashar al-Assad to kill 500,000 Syrians, of which 50,000 are children. Same with Iran, too. So, yes, this is terrible. But this idea, if you look at really this side of the argument and see who on the far right and who on the left is actually pushing for, realigning our interest against Saudi Arabia, it's people that have wanted to do this before this whole incident ever even happened. For whatever reason, they've wanted to change our alignment in the Middle East, and they're just using this now as an impetus because of the egregious nature of it.
But the difference is it not that Saudi Arabia is an ally. It's not an adversary like Russia, and it's an ally that committed this murder on the soil of another U.S. ally, a NATO partner. Just remind folks at home, this is a guy going into the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. He thought he was safe. Guy who lives in Tyson's Corner, Virginia, by the way, whose children are U.S. citizens. He's getting marriage documents, and he comes up dead. Isn't that different?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's different. And like I said, I wish the statement would have been far different, because while there's a lot of human rights issues around the world and issues that we don't like and things that make us cringe, obviously the United States can't intervene every time a sin like that happens. So what we can do, though, is use the force of our words to basically say this is what we stand for. And while in this case it may not rise to the level of massive change of U.S. foreign policy, we hold these truths of freedom and human dignity to be something that we value. And I think we really missed that opportunity to use our force of words for a page and a half of that statement to say how terrible this thing was, and then a half page to say why we're not doing anything.
Let me ask you on another topic. You probably saw some of the president's call with deployed U.S. forces yesterday. As a veteran yourself, pilot, served in war zones, as the president was there making transparently political points with those troops about the border wall, about trade deals, even about the Ninth Circuit, is that something that the U.S. president, the commander-in-chief, is that a position he should put those forces in?
No, I think a call to the troops on Thanksgiving should be, thanks for all you do. We're very proud of you. Thanks for putting your life on the line. I'm not outraged by him talking about the border, because the border is a mission that the president has ordered. Just like if you're a member of the military and you don't agree with the fight in Afghanistan, the president's still going to talk to you about that fight. But there were other areas that I thought he went, obviously, where he shouldn't on a Thanksgiving holiday. And I think it missed an opportunity again just to be like, thanks for what you do. We appreciate everything. We're thankful for you. And then be done with that call.
Yeah, it could be a pretty simple call there. But let me ask you about the deployment of U.S. forces here domestically at the southern border. More than 5,000 troops to supplement nearly 20,000 Custom and Border Patrol officers, most of whom are armed, for a putative threat from migrants who the president has accused of being, full of criminals, etc. Is that a necessary use of active U.S. military, or do you suspect that the military is being used to some degree here to political effect?
I think it's, to the extent of any kind of political effect, this is a political issue with real consequences, so it depends how you define that. I don't think he's deploying the military for the sole purpose of trying to win an election, because we did not do that great in November. But I do think it's a legitimate use for the military, whether it's Guard or whether it's in some cases a surged active troops. I mean, defending the U.S. border, I think, is a very important role of the federal government.
What's the real threat
military
from these migrants? You got 20,000 CBP agents. Do you need 5,000 active military to defend against this caravan? Is that really a clear and present danger in your view?
No, well, see, I don't think that the question is this a clear and present danger? Are we defending against an invasion? I don't use those terms. But as a guy that has worked the border in a military capacity, and I will again probably in February, it is not secure. I can tell you that. And the use of the military, because they have skill sets that can augment the Border Patrol to do what they do within their law enforcement capacity, I think is okay. And President Obama did it. President Bush did it. And yeah, President Trump is much more controversial on these issues, but now he's doing it. I don't see this as like the end of the world kind of thing. I think it's a legitimate use of the military in a situation like this.
And a reminder there, our viewers may not know, you're still in the reserves, right? So you still got to do your time every year, okay? And this is a burden that many Americans share, and I think that a lot of folks don't realize that you're still getting called back even when you wear a suit and tie most days. Congressman Kinzinger, thanks for taking the time, and happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
You bet. Take care, you too, Jim. See ya.